phosphate is leaving this way. So what my finger will do is, it will bend. It will bend. So today's topic of discussion is sliding filament theory. I've already drawn each and every diagram over here, which I will require to explain this entire mechanism to you, so that we could save some time. And before I start with that, I will also explain you A band, I band, and all the edge zone, then Z line and everything, so that just in case you've forgotten, it will help you. So we'll start with the diagram, this diagram first. So this is the actin filament. I am sure you know. Each small blue ball, that is a globular protein which polymerizes in the presence of Mg2 plus to form this entire filament, that is the F actin. So there are 2 in number and they are bound helically. Then we have this red line. These are also, again, you see, 2 in number. One is following this path and the other is following this path, the lower one. Alright, so this is called tropomyosin. Then we have troponin. Troponin is a complex protein. So there are 3 subunits. Those 3 subunits are called I, T and C. Each subunit has a different function, which I will be explaining to you in the later part of this video. So I hope this this diagram is clear. Now we'll move to this. This is the myosin filament. Over here, how they can ask you a question is there are 2 sites, right? One is actin binding site and the other is ATP binding site. So they can ask you which one is ATP binding site and which is actin binding site. So just make sure you know this. The one present on top, that is for the actin, and the one present below, that is for ATP. So ATP binds over here and actin binds over here on top. Now coming to this diagram. So we'll start from here. This thick line that you can see, this is what is the myosin filament. This is the thick band present over here. The thick filament, that is a myosin filament. And these thinner lines which you can see, this is the thin filament, that is the F actin. So this is the Z line and this is another Z line. So the area between 2 Z lines, 2 consecutive Z lines, that is called the sarcomere, and that is 1 unit of the muscle fiber. Now coming to this A band. What is A band? Starting from this end of the thick filament to this end of the thick, starting from this end of the thick filament to this end of the thick filament, that is the A band. Now if you can see, I'll just dot it with green. This region, the area between the 2 green lines, that is the A band. You see, A band has the entire thick filament and some portion of thin filament on both the ends. Some portion of thin filament. So A band contains thin filament as well as thick filament. Coming to I band starts from here to here. So you see there is no thick filament. So I band has only thin filament. Keep this in mind. A band has both thick filament, entire thick filament, and some part of thin filament on both the ends. I band has only thin filament. Alright, so what is H zone? H zone is the non-overlapping zone. This area, do that with red. This area, you see, this area has only the thick filament. This area in that red box, that does not have any part of thin filament. So that in that region we don't have overlapping of the thick filament with the thin filament. That is called the H zone. And then this area where there is overlapping, you see this region, there is overlapping, right? If you can just see, there's overlapping. There's thick filament, then there's thin filament, then thick filament, then thin filament. So there's overlapping over here. So that is why it is called O zone. O zone. Overlapping, so O zone. And we also have an M band between, right in the center, but that is not in NCERT. So even this O zone is not in NCERT, but it's easy, so you can remember it. Alright. Now coming to the actual part, the sliding filament theory. I'll just rub everything before that. Muscle fiber has 2 units, one anatomical unit and the other is functional unit. One of them is mentioned in the chapter itself, in the main text of the chapter, and I guess the functional, no, the anatomical unit is mentioned in the summary. So just in case you have missed it, please read it from there. You'll find, just read the summary of this chapter, locomotion and movement. You'll find it there in the summary section. Right, so now we'll start with the actual mechanism that takes place, the sliding filament theory. First of all, the statement of the sliding filament theory, as it is, it's very important. So what is that? Thin over thick. Sliding of the thin filament over the thick filament. The thin ones only slide, the thick one stays as it is. Because the thick one, this thick band will pull the thin band this way. So the one which will be sliding is the thin one, and over which the thick band, so thin over thick. We'll start with this now. Yeah, before we start, this is the muscle fiber, this red thing. That is the muscle fiber. This has the nerve innervation over here. When there is a signal from CNS, this nerve will release acetylcholine in the fiber, and that increases the Ca2 plus in the sarcolemma. And whenever Ca2 plus increases, that is when this entire process will take place, which I'll explain you now. So this entire thing can take place only when there is increased Ca2 plus concentration in the sarcolemma. That is the cytoplasm of the muscle fiber. We'll start. Always remember, whenever myosin has ATP with it, this won't look for actin. That means whenever myosin has ATP, it stays relaxed. The moment it loses the ATP, it starts searching for actin. You understand? Whenever myosin has ATP, it will stay relaxed. There's no bond. You see, there's no bond between actin and the myosin. So it has its ATP right here. It will stay relaxed, and this angle is about 120 degree. This angle, which is written over there. Next, what happens is there is a hydrolysis. There is hydrolysis of ATP that results in ADP and phosphate. This ADP and phosphate, they remain attached to the myosin. This hydrolysis, whenever there is hydrolysis of ATP, some amount of energy is released, and that energy does what? Decreases the angle. From 120 degree, this will go straight and become 90 degree. 90 degree. So there is no attachment yet. Wait. There is no attachment now. It has just become 90 degree. So there is no attachment. It has just become 90 degree. This is phosphate group separate, and this is ATP. Next, what happens is whenever there is hydrolysis and this becomes 90 degree, the activity in the actin increases, and that causes the formation of bonds. So now this will get attached. You understand? The moment hydrolysis takes place, this becomes straight. This becomes from 120 degree to 90 degree. But there will not be bond formation right away. First of all, it will hydrolyze. The myosin will move from 120 degree to 90 degree. Then there will be a bond formation. That means myosin will bind to the actin filament. Next, phosphorus, the phosphate group leaves the myosin. You see, this will leave, and as a result of that, this slowly bends. And now here NCERT there is a different diagram. Over here they show the phosphate group and ADP as it is, and in this the fourth step they show that both are leaving at the same time. You remember that diagram, but I will show you exactly what happens over here. The phosphate group leaves this way. As a result of that, there is a power stroke. That means this myosin, this bends. When this will bend, you see, my finger, that's myosin, and this is actin. So this was the first step. This condition is this way. This is relaxing. This is straight. Now there will be hydrolysis. So I stand straight. I have not stuck to it yet. Wait. It becomes 90 degree. Now after some time this will attach, and next, oh god, I can't remember. Wait. Yeah, that's fine. So this was myosin, 120 degree. There was hydrolysis, so this became straight. Then there was attachment. Now since the phosphate is leaving this way, so what my finger will do is it will bend. So there is attachment over here. So if this bends this way, this actin will also move in this direction. So this will bend this way. As a result of this, the actin will move in this direction. So this movement, this power stroke, this power stroke is because of the release of phosphate group from the myosin. After that, ADP also leaves. Next, when phosphate group and ADP, both of them have left, the bond will still be there, because I told you this way myosin will leave actin only when it gets a ATP. This won't leave actin without ATP. So even when phosphate and ATP, they have left myosin, and then there was a contraction, that means the actin moves this way, this bond will still be there. Myosin will still be attached to actin. Then a new ATP comes and this bond breaks and it returns back to its position. Then again the same cycle will take place. So what two things remember over here. Whenever hydrolysis takes place, because of hydrolysis, the main thing that happens is this myosin, which was at 120 degree, this moves to 90 degree. Next, even when the phosphate group and ADP leaves myosin, the bond is still there. The bond is broken only and only when a new ATP will come and attach to this myosin. I hope this is clear. Now we are done with this. I hope everything that I explained is clear. If table 5.3, let me discuss about that as well. And yeah, coming to table 5.3 of NCERT class 12 biology, over here this column, just in case you don't know. I feel that over here, I've already uploaded a video regarding this, but I'll repeat it again over here. I just feel that in this table, they try to justify what they have stated in the previous page, that the behavior of chromosome and gene, they are parallel to each other. But in the last point, if you see, the last point of both the columns, there is a slight difference. But even when there's a slight difference, none of the statement, both the statements are correct for gene only if you don't consider linkage, right? So if you don't consider linkage, then column A is also for chromosome and gene, and B is also for chromosome and gene. But there's one thing that I want to say: independent pairs segregate independently of each other. I don't think there is anything as independent chromosome. Dependent chromosomes do not exist, so there's no point of calling any chromosome as independent, because there's nothing as dependent. So why would we call it independent? So chromosomes are just chromosomes. Those are not independent or dependent. Coming to genes, if they are linked, then we can say that the ones which are linked are dependent and the ones which are not linked are independent. So that is one reason why I can say that column A is not that correct for chromosome. But overall, I feel that column A and B both are equally correct for both chromosomes and genes. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.